Hey everybody, it's Safi and Marco Dish Out on Movies, the only movie review show on YouTube to review movies in terms of food. And it's just Marco here once again, and I am here today to review another horror movie as I've been dealing with allergies going crazy up and down and up and down. And then also working on my short film, which I originally only planned to film for 2 days, and it ended up being to where now I'm going to be filming 2 more days. That's usually how it goes with me, is that I start off thinking that I'm going to do something small and then I do something bigger. And I guess that says something about me, though, is that like I like to go big or go home. And at least in terms of like as much as I can do while still going quote unquote big. But I've just been watching like a lot of videos while I've been doing my work and just been kind of like, you know what, I want to watch a movie. I want to watch a good horror movie, some stuff to get in the mood, some stuff to just have fun. And after yesterday, where I watched probably one of my favorite 2000s horror movies, which is Dead End, I really enjoyed that. I wanted to find another horror movie that maybe from the early 2000s that I could enjoy. And I ended up finding this movie called The Woods. It is a 2006 quote-unquote horror movie. And for starters, I have no idea why this movie is rated R. At least I think it is. Because I mean, it's really weird. Like, this is one of those... Yeah, it's rated R. I have no idea. There's not a single thing in this movie that they couldn't get away with in a PG-13 movie. There's no nudity. There's no graphic violence. There are some deaths that are like kind of on screen, kind of off screen, but it's not like crazy over the top like Saw or something. So, I was really looking forward to this movie though, because it takes place at a girls' school, which, that's just a recipe for good entertainment. But number two, it just, I don't know, like something about it kind of had like a creepy look to it. But you know what? The whole movie, it's funny because this movie is supposed to take place in the 60s. Okay, they even got the rights to this 160 song that they played twice in the movie. And that's always fun, when you can tell that they only got the rights to that one period song. Because they cost so much for no damn good reason to license. And for example, like I wanted to have a certain song in my movie, not my short movie, and even to just put the song in the movie and release it in festivals, you'd have to pay $2,000 for one song. I just think that's fucking retarded. It's such a waste of money. But there are so many things about this movie that I hate, but like one of the most interesting things is that this movie somehow, it's a 2006 movie. They shot it in 2004. Somehow, it doesn't feel like a 2000s movie at all. Somehow, the movie does not feel like a 60s movie at all. But you know what the movie feels like? A 1990s movie. So I just think that that's hilarious that like they were trying to make like a 60s movie. I couldn't tell that at all. And because, one of the big things in the movie that really kind of pissed me off, because, it's about accuracy. It's about period accuracy. In the cars, they had seat belts. Like they didn't have no seat belts in the 1960s. So, there's a particular scene near the end of this movie where The car is turned upside down, and I don't give a fuck if I spoil this movie because it sucks so bad. I don't want you guys to watch it. It's terrible, it's awful, it's miserable. That's the word that I would describe as miserable. It's a miserable, bad movie. But there's a part where the car is turned upside down, and the whole suspense of the scene depends on, this person being stuck in with the seatbelt on. And it's like, this is retarded because they didn't have seatbelts in the 60s. And it's so funny because, I'm a like a low budget filmmaker, and I hate to keep on bringing that up like I'm trying to show off or something, because I'm not. It's just that it helps to kind of understand certain things and kind of come from a place where I can say, well, this is stupid. And I'm making a movie that takes place in the 50s, and I shot a scene in a car back in 2022. And when I was shooting that scene, I was about to put my seatbelt on because I was like, okay, it's a driving scene. Obviously, I'm going to have... But then I was like, wait a second. They didn't have seatbelts in the 1960s. So I just let the seatbelt go, and I was just like having a blast because I was like, well, fuck that. I don't even need to have the seatbelt on. It's stupid. So I just think that's a big flaw. It's a big gaping flaw when you're making a movie that takes place in the 60s and you have cars with seat belts. Yeah. So anyways, as I said before, this movie feels like a 1990s movie. It reminds me of Charmed. It reminds me of, movies like that, but really bad. And I wasn't even a fan of Charmed. This movie, it's all about this girl, and let's just call her what the girls call her in the movie, which is Fire Crotch, which is probably one of the hottest nicknames I've ever heard. And she is a fire crotch, and she's really hot. Okay, this main character, I don't think I've ever seen this actress before, but, you keep on discovering hot actresses back in these 2000s movies, because when they cast movies back then, there was like a gatekeeping type of thing that doesn't exist now, where like, you have to, it's like a roller coaster ride. It's like you have to be this hot to be in a movie. And obviously that's not always, necessary, but like talent is important too. And talent is the main important thing, actually. But, there's also like a standard, and there's a feeling of like, that's Hollywood. That's movies. And you don't get that feeling anymore. You get the feeling that like movies are like, I don't know, they're just like products with these ugly people who look terrible. And it's embarrassing. And this main character, she is stunning. She has, I guess this was considered like an old-fashioned haircut, but like, it's really cute. And I wish that I could see more like female characters with this type of haircut, because it's really cute looking. It reminded me kind of Christina Ricci too. And that's another thing why it reminded me of like 1990s movies. So yeah. But she gets sent to this all-girls school because she almost set her house on fire. And her dad is Bruce Campbell. That's another thing about this movie. And so it kind of feels like they're trying to like conjure up some Evil Dead vibes too, because they have these living tree branches and this living forest or some shit. This is another thing. This movie is like a mystery. It's like a mystery wrapped up inside of a riddle, wrapped up inside of an enigma. I don't even know what the mystery was. Like, it just... The women at the school who are in charge, they're evil. They're witches, and the forest is also evil. Like, even at the end of the movie, I had no idea what happened in the whole movie. Like, I was so lost. I just wanted it to end. I was starting to feel really good watching this movie because, feeling better than I've been feeling since yesterday. And but then the movie was so boring, it bored me to tears. I mean, literal tears. I was sitting there and they said the word fire crotch so many times, I wanted to punch the computer screen. And it was like torture, this movie. It was like torture, a torturous experience, because the mystery is, who gives a fuck about, like, it's just, there's some evil witches and shit at this school. Like, there's no mystery there, and there's no suspense, there's no horror. It doesn't get, and I've said this in my Letterboxd review, it doesn't deliver the goods that a horror fan would want. That's the thing that Dead End delivered. It didn't deliver any good, eye candy shots, but it did deliver on all the other, like, checkmark boxes that a horror fan would want. And if you can't deliver on a certain level, then you have to deliver in other levels. And this movie just did not deliver anything except for, like, a couple of, like, IMDb pages that I looked up of, like, oh, who's that? Who's that? Kind of just like, oh, I've never heard of that person. Oh, kind of. But just, this movie was not worth it. Also, the head of the school, I can't remember her name, but I did see her in a Tales from the Crypt episode before, the one with Richard Thomas, and she did a good job in that Tales from the Crypt episode. So it seems like this movie had, like, all the right ingredients to make a good horror movie, and instead of really having a good story and a good horror movie type of thing, they just wanted to make, like, this pretentious, and I want to say the word pretentious because when you make a horror movie and it's just like this boring drama, mystery, thriller thing, it just feels like you baited the audience in making them think it would be a horror movie, and then you waste their time, like, dragging it out the whole movie of, like, making the audience wonder, like, oh, is anything ever going to happen? Because nothing ever really does happen, except at the end. I don't know. The woods was keeping the girls hostage, and it's the school burns down. It's stupid movie. Another thing, this thing really pissed me off about the movie, and this was probably, like, because the movie started off and it had kind of a depressing feel to it. Like, I was kind of depressed watching this movie. But usually in these types of movies, the character starts off alone, and then they make a friend, and then they get bullied, and all that stuff happens. But eventually, all the characters band together to fight evil. And in this movie, the filmmaker said, fuck that, and the school bully, she's actually probably the second hottest one in the movie. It's unfortunate, because in real life, she got rid of the blonde hair, and she looked a lot better in blonde, and she was like, she was a pretty good character, but she was kind of annoying, and at a certain point, she just randomly turns good because she realizes something bad is happening, and then she gets killed. And so, okay, they took her off of the chessboard. And then Firecrotch, she made a friend in this girl named Marcy, and then they took her off the chessboard, like immediately after that. So, and then after that, she gets her parents to come back and get her, thank God, because, it really felt like, why is she even at this school to begin with? Like, you didn't really get troublemaker vibes from her. And that was another issue that I had with the movie, was that this character, she really isn't like a well-defined character. You know, the whole movie, she is the most like boring, bland character because all she does is glare and scowl. She just makes the same face the entire movie, and it's so hard to watch. But as I said, those two people get taken off, then her parents come back, and then her mom gets killed, and then the dad, you know, obviously you wouldn't kill Bruce Campbell. You wouldn't get rid of him because there's no one else in the movie to care about at that point. But they do this weird thing where the head witch, she puts him in like a vegetable state until like she can be distracted. Like she can take the main girl back to the school and do things to her. Like it doesn't make any sense at all. Guys, like it does not make any fucking sense, this movie. But it just felt like, okay, like, you've taken away all the interesting characters of the movie. You've taken away, and, like, the enjoyment would have come from people banding together to stop this evil. But instead, at the end, I don't even know what happened. Like, there's a lot of parts in this movie. This is another thing, another telltale sign that this is not a 1960s movie. There's a lot of scenes where they just, the way that it's edited, they jump all over the place. They just jump, and there's not really much sense to the jumping. And at the end, I guess she just gets this axe and, you know, chops the one witch's head off, and then the other witches just die. I don't know. I really don't fucking know. That's another thing, too, that we should talk about, is that this school, you know, they talked about, you know, Kanye, you know, little Kanye. They talked about little Kanye's stupid school that he made for, like, rich children, you know, which was just, like, a huge ripoff school. Like, what was that called? The Donda School? The Donda Academy? Like, just imagine being a child and going to, like, a normal public school, and they say, hey, where'd you come from? Where'd you go to school before? And you say, I went to the Donda Academy. I mean, what they talked about with that school, that apparently Kanye was such a lazy ass that he left, like, the windows open and the ceiling was open, and so, like, there was, like, mold everywhere because rain and water got into the school, and there was, like, something with the sewer, like, there was, like, a sewage smell all the time there. Like, you know, that school didn't last very long. And that's a big plot hole with this movie, is that there's no explanation. In fact, the main person in the school, she brings up at a certain point, like, hey, why would I, you know, disappear my own students and risk my school getting shut down? But it's revealed at the end that, like, there's, I guess, hundreds of girls, or maybe they all get taken hostage at the end. I don't fucking know. But it doesn't make sense. Like, how did the school go on for so long? And, you know, because apparently the school was taken over by witches in, like, the 1800s. So how did it go on? How did it run for so long while also killing off its own students? It doesn't make any sense at all. So yeah, I guess you could say I didn't like the movie. And, you know, I can't really think of a single good thing to say about it, except I thought that the main girl was hot, and I thought that the school bully was hot. Other than that, there's really nothing of note worth mentioning about this movie. I would say the scariest thing in the movie was the meatloaf. Bruce Campbell, his character, he had this hospital plate of, like, meatloaf and corn and mashed potatoes, And this meatloaf looked like something, it looked like a Frankenstein meatloaf. It looked so disgusting and bad. It looked so cold and dry. And that was really the scariest part of the movie. Other than that, this movie was boring as hell. And I was checking the clock every 5 minutes. I was so bored. I was looking at my phone. I was looking at the wall. I was staring at my foot. I was just doing anything I could to just make it through this bad movie. Because this movie is the true definition of a bad movie. I mean, I hated this movie. I'm not mincing words here. Like, I despised this movie. Because, you know, I can handle, like, a bad horror movie, you know, like Saw 3, you know, I mean, but that movie is, like, a masterpiece compared to this, but, like, if you're a boring, bad movie, that's where I get pissed off, and also where there's not very much horror stuff in it. I mean, there's not very much blood or gore, or any scares, or just anything scary. It just... A lot of the scares in this movie is just like old women being mean. And, you know, you see that all the time at, like, what do they call it? The BMV. You see mean old women there. You know, I mean, you can get your fill of horror there. But, like, this movie's just not it. So, in terms of food, you know... This movie is like waiting for a meal that never comes. You know, there's been some times in the past where I have made big mistakes in the kitchen. Very rare, you know, because I'm a smart man and I'm very, 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 very bright. But there was this one time to be serious now, there was this one time where I was trying to make these, I can't remember what they were called, but they're, Cornish pasties or pasties or something, hasties. No, I can't remember, but like, I got them from, Ellie from the Andy Griffith Show. She had her own cookbook. And there's this British kind of, I don't know what you call it, because it's not really a meal, and it's not really an appetizer. It's a weird snack thing. And what it is it's a British thing where you take dough, and then you put meat in it, and then on the other side you could put jelly in it. And so apparently... the wives of miners, that's funny saying that, the wives of miners would give them these, and so that miners would have, like, their dinner and dessert while they're working in the mines. And I just wanted to try them for dinner, and it was probably the biggest disaster, one of the biggest disasters I've ever had in the kitchen. And needless to say, they did not turn out. They were disgusting. They were weird. And in fact, you know, Ellie's cookbook in general was abysmal, because it really felt like this biatch did not taste or make any of the food in the whole book. It felt like these recipes just were not, like, every single recipe had something bad about it, something questionable about it. And this one, it was just a disaster because, you know, I was cooking for 3 people. And it was like, oh, where's dinner? And we ended up having to have, like, I think, like, mac and cheese, peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. It was a nightmare. And at the end of all of it, I was like, well, wait, like, are these ever really good? I mean, it's just dough with beef inside of it, like ground beef, or no, like chopped up beef. Like, can that really, really, really be very good? So if there's any British people watching, which I don't know why they would be watching this particular video, but, you know, are these beef things, are they any good for real? Because they did not sound very good. So anyways, please like this video and comment. Tell me what you thought of The Woods. Because that's another thing, is that the movie's called The Woods, and they hardly are in the woods the whole movie. I mean, and that's never explained, too. The woods, the forest, it's just like a hanging... It's like a loose end, and it's just like it's basically like an aesthetic thing. It's like an aesthetic, like, and that's what I think too about the movie, is that they're banking on you enjoying the aesthetic and just like not really focusing on the plot, and like, oh, this is really the ambiance and you know the mystery, and you know, ooh, it's really creepy feeling, and you know, like there's a scary forest. What happens in the forest? And, you know, there's a lot of movies like that where it's like they think that they can make you entertained with nothing, you know, just giving you nothing. And whereas with a movie like from yesterday, like Dead End, even though, you know, it was like a lower budget movie, they tried to give you a lot of stuff to like. And they really tried to make you think, and, you know, all sorts of stuff like that. And that's why that was a good movie versus this. And then please subscribe to our channel if you'd like to see more honest movie reviews. Goodbye, everybody. See you soon.